Welcome back. Did you know that when you go to an art museum, you're not actually allowed to look at some of the paintings? I'm talking about the really good ones. The ones that might have been made 300 years ago and are super fragile. Too much light can hurt these old masterpieces. They need to stay safe so we can all keep enjoying them. Well, if you love old stuff, get ready, because tonight we're going back even further than art museums would like us to. We're going to see something from 400 years before Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa was painted. We're off to the Dark Ages. Time for a history hot tip. What do you think when you hear about the Dark Ages? Barbarians. Right. Wrong. It was a time of progress in Europe. You just missed it by 800 years. After the fall of Rome, new kingdoms rose up, and with them came new ideas. People started thinking differently about the world and how it worked. They built cool stuff like cathedrals and universities. New inventions like eyeglasses and mechanical clocks were developed, and 3-button shoes became popular. It was a time of change, creativity, and one heck of a hat trick. But you know what? It was also a bit of a scary time. You wouldn't want to be around when someone sneezed, and you definitely wouldn't want to be swimming in the same lake as a waterborne disease. It was a wild ride. Good thing there was somewhere to hide from all the chaos. Somewhere dark, silent, and full of books. Yep, it's time to take a deep dive into medieval libraries, where knowledge was power, parchment was precious, and late fees were a sin. Imagine the scene. The year is 1348, right in the middle of the Black Death. A time when everyone is losing their minds. One person is not. Thomas, a Dominican friar and a very smart cookie, is hiding out in a quiet abbey, while the world outside is turning into a nightmare. He's got a secret stash of more than 200 ancient manuscripts, saved from an old abbey that recently burned down. These are not your average books. We're talking about the real deal ancient texts on subjects ranging from theology to astrology, philosophy to poetry, with the Black Death killing tons of people and burning stuff becoming the latest trend. Thomas decides to preserve these books by making copies. He works tirelessly, copying texts that date back to the Roman Empire, saving ancient knowledge from being lost forever. Fast forward 600 years and guess what? His efforts pay off big time. His copied manuscripts become the foundation of one of the first public libraries, the St. John's College Library in Cambridge, England. And people from all over Europe come to check them out. That's right, this dude was a trailblazer. He may not have known it at the time, but he set the stage for libraries as we know them today. Talk about a legacy. Let's fast forward a few centuries to the 17th century and the Scottish Reformation. The Presbyterian Church in Scotland is looking to spice up its services, and what better way to do that than by making Martin Luther's writings available in the local language. Cue the badass Queen Elizabeth I, who says, "No, that's not gonna happen on my watch." Her government tries to keep the church in line by controlling what books they can read. Enter the Scottish printer Henry Zannon, who decides to rebel by printing the works of John Knox, a key figure in the Scottish Reformation. Knox's writings ignite the people of Scotland, and soon they were calling for big changes in the church. The government tries to put a stop to it by banning and burning the books. But it's too late. The seeds of reform have been planted, and the Scottish Reformation is in full swing. Zana becomes a martyr for the cause, executed for his role in the uprising. But his sacrifice doesn't go in vain. His actions pave the way for future generations of Scottish reformers, including John Witherspoon, who will eventually become the president of Princeton University and help draft the United States Declaration of Independence. Talk about a legacy. The year is 1278, and the place is Paris. The main attraction, the world's largest collection of books. Well, almost. Robert de Sorbonne, a chaplain at the Sorbonne, a prestigious university in Paris, has amassed a whopping 1,800 manuscripts and 4,000 printed books in a modest cell next to the university. We're talking about ancient texts on theology, law, medicine, you name it. Word spreads quickly, and fellow scholars start dropping by to borrow books. Before long, de Sorbonne's humble collection turns into the Sorbonne Library, open to students and scholars from all over Europe. It's a game changer. Scholars flock to Paris to access the vast collection of books. And let's be real, it's a lot more fun to study when you've got thousands of books at your fingertips. De Sorbonne's dream was simple: make knowledge accessible to all. Little did he know he was about to change the course of intellectual history. Now fast forward to 1629, when King Louis XIII officially establishes the Royal Library, giving it official status and opening it to the public. It becomes one of the most important intellectual centers in Europe, housing everything from classic texts to new scientific discoveries. The year is 1473, and Gutenberg's printing press is changing the game. Suddenly, books are easier to produce, and people want them more than ever. Enter Niccolò Nicolai, an Italian Renaissance polymath, who knows that books are the key to knowledge and power. He collects hundreds of manuscripts and rare books, creating one of the biggest private libraries of his time. When he dies, his friend and fellow Renaissance man, Angelo Policiano, inherits the collection. But little does he know he's in for a surprise. Among the books, he finds a secret stash of unpublished works by some of the greatest minds of the Renaissance, including Bruni and Leonardo da Vinci. Realizing the importance of preserving this treasure trove of knowledge, Policiano donates the entire collection to the Medici, a powerful family in Florence, Italy. This gift will kickstart the creation of the Laurentian Library, which will later become one of the most important libraries in the world, housing over 11 million manuscripts and documents. Talk about a legacy. So whether you're a history buff, a bookworm, or just someone who loves a good story, we hope you enjoyed our journey through time and the fascinating world of medieval libraries. Don't forget to subscribe for more historical tales and leave a like if you learned something new. And hey, why not share your thoughts in the comments? Who knows, you might just teach us something we didn't learn in school. Thanks for joining us on this adventure through time. Until next time, happy reading. It's late at night, and you find yourself wandering through an ancient castle. Its stones are cold, its halls are drafty, and then you notice a door with a faded sign above it reading library. curiosity piqued, you push open the door and step inside. Welcome to this medieval library. Oh, sorry. Please ignore me. I'm just setting the scene for the video I'm currently making, and I need a narrator. Perfect. Now, you must be asking why I chose you for this vital role. Well, it's simple. You clicked on this video and no one else volunteered. Okay, let's get down to business. What secrets does this spooky library hold? Well, first off, let's talk about the atmosphere. You're probably expecting flickering candlelight, a musty smell, and the sound of mice squeaking. And yes, while those are all likely, there's another key element: darkness. Medieval libraries weren't exactly bright. They relied on whatever natural light came through small windows, which meant lamps were needed for most work. These often burned tallow, the rendered fat of animals, and smoked up the room. Not to mention the soot from fireplaces, candle snuffings, and people just doing their nightly ablutions. Libraries could get pretty smelly. As for noise, besides the aforementioned squeaks, you might hear the scratch of a quill on parchment, the murmur of a prayer, or the cough of someone hoping they didn't have the plague. Overall, imagine a dimly lit room with a chill from drafts and stone walls, the smell of old paper and candle wax, and a general feeling of peace punctuated by random interruptions. A great soundtrack would be Gregorian chants playing softly beneath some wind chimes and distant thunder. And hey, if any actual historians are watching, please don't yell at me for mixing historical periods. I'm trying to set the mood here. Okay, now that we're seated in our medieval library, it's dark, a little cold, and you can hear the scratching of a quill in the distance. But what were these libraries really keeping safe? First up, they held a lot of books, not like our modern concept of a book, mind you, but still thousands of handwritten manuscripts on vellum, a fancy writing surface made from animal skins. And since printing was rare, copying books was a serious job. Enter the monks. They diligently transcribed, illuminated, and bound texts, saving the classics for future generations. Imagine them bent over a table, their candles flickering as they carefully copy letters onto parchment. And speaking of what they copied, one huge collection was the classical world. We're talking Aristotle, Plato, Galen, Cicero. Without these sleepy little libraries, the Renaissance would never have happened. Europe would have lost its link to ancient Greece and Rome. So, ironically, those silent men in robes hunched over parchment were basically keeping civilization alive. But not all books survive. Wars, fires, dampness, careless handling. Libraries were fragile. Entire collections vanished overnight. In 1731, a fire in Ashburnham House in London destroyed or damaged nearly 200 priceless medieval manuscripts, including one of the only surviving copies of Beowulf. The librarians, by the way, tried to save them by tossing flaming books out of windows. Not exactly Dewey Decimal. Then there were the mysteries. Some manuscripts were odd, books filled with strange symbols, bizarre illustrations, and undecipherable languages. The most famous is the Voynich manuscript, a 15th century book with drawings of unknown plants, weird naked women in bathtubs, and text no one has ever managed to decode. To this day, nobody knows if it's a medical text, a prank, or the world's longest inside joke. As for how these libraries operated, well, think card catalogs, but much, much worse. Medieval libraries didn't even use cards until the 18th century. Instead, scribes kept track of books using written records. Picture a big ledger with meticulous entries for each book in the collection. There were detailed descriptions to help find the right text, but no standardized system. Each library did things its own way, and if you want to know how they kept their books organized, I've got just the thing for you. Subscribe for more great historical tales, and check out my series, Medieval Archives. But now, back to our grand library. Another crucial aspect was circulation. How did people actually get their hands on these precious books? Well, unlike our modern libraries, where anyone can pick up a book and browse, medieval ones were much more exclusive. Usually only scholars, monks, or high-ranking church members had access. The average person couldn't just pop in and check out a bestseller. And if you wanted to borrow a book, forget due dates and fines. The rules were strict. You might be granted a book for personal study, but had to return it promptly. Losing or damaging a book could mean serious trouble, even excommunication. Imagine the pressure of knowing if you accidentally spilled wine on a manuscript, you could be kicked out of the church. Talk about high-stakes reading. Oh, and let's not forget the curses. Yes, medieval librarians took their job seriously, and they weren't afraid to get downright nasty. If you snuck an extra book out the door, or forgot to return one, you might find this sort of note waiting for you. The original Latin reads, "The Lord damn all those who secreted books of ours." And while that's a bit harsh, it shows how strongly they felt about protecting their collections. Can you imagine getting divine retribution over an overdue book? It's enough to make you break the sacred seal of confession. Lastly, there was the danger. Not all books were created equal. Some were controversial, others outright banned. Think of it like the librarian hiding certain books in a forbidden section. But instead of young adults sneaking peeks, it was usually scholars looking for a bit of heresy or forbidden knowledge. These could be politically sensitive texts, theological debates, or magical grimoires. Imagine the thrill of discovering a hidden book containing dark rituals or subversive ideas. But be careful, because delving into dangerous lore could have real consequences. Remember, this is a time when holding the wrong opinion could get you burned at the stake or sent to a dungeon. So these libraries weren't just repositories of knowledge. They were battlegrounds where ideas clashed and the fate of souls hung in the balance. Finally, let's discuss the politics. Some books were hidden away in forbidden sections, sometimes literally locked in cupboards. These were the dangerous works, heresies, magical texts, or anything the church wasn't entirely comfortable with. Picture a nervous monk sneaking into a dark corner to read something he absolutely shouldn't. Knowledge was power, and sometimes power was dangerous. Imagine the intrigue of a secret stash of texts, hidden away from prying eyes and tucked behind dusty tomes. These forbidden books contained knowledge that was deemed too dangerous or controversial for the average reader. Perhaps they whispered of radical new theories that challenged the status quo, or recounted daring adventures that went against the teachings of the church. The thrill of discovery, mixed with the fear of reprisal, made exploring these hidden shelves a risky gamble. Would you dare venture into the forbidden section? And then there's the ultimate tragedy. Not all libraries met their end peacefully. Some were looted in wars, manuscripts stolen, knowledge lost forever. Think of marauders ransacking a monastery, scattering books, burning scrolls, destroying irreplaceable history. Or imagine a sudden flood, water seeping into a vault, paper rotting, ink bleeding, whole sections of knowledge vanishing beneath the waves. Even a careless hand can spell disaster. A moth-eaten scroll, a torn page, centuries of work undone in an instant. In the face of such fragility, each surviving book becomes a beacon, guiding us through the mists of time. The quiet rustle of pages turns into a chorus, whispering tales from the past. In conclusion, medieval libraries were much more than just rooms full of books. They were centers of scholarship, culture, and sometimes danger. Within their shadowy depths lay not only ancient texts, but the fate of souls and the future of knowledge itself. You might just find yourself transported back in time. Thank you for joining me in this thrilling journey through a medieval library. Until next time, happy reading, and remember, the past is never truly gone. It's waiting for us to discover it.